How you doing? I'm Levi. Um, Going to be known as Pioneer Games. This is the first time I've ever recorded, edited, did anything. This is an idea that I've had for quite a while to sort of not lean into or cater to, but to assist those in the church that grew up with interests like I did. I grew up playing a lot of video games, watching people play a lot of video games, and I feel like that there is not enough outreach to those, in the church that grew up like I did or are growing up like I did now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this channel, and I'm going to go and talk about lots of things. I have a lot in store for this channel. But today, all I wanted to talk about, during work today, I was listening to the Ward Radio live stream, talking about the new changes that are happening with the Sunday school and priesthood, Relief Society schedules. I have different opinions on it than most people do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play Marathon, and I'm going to talk about it. Also, I'm going to drink a root beer float, because I made myself a root beer float. I went too hard on the root beer float. I can't stop. So here's the deal. There is, more or less from what I've seen in the reactions to it so far, the change has been controversy. What is the change anyways? For the longest time, growing up, church used to be 3 hours. You'd go for a sacrament meeting, then you do Sunday school, and then you do priesthood. Now it's changed to 2 hours. That happened a little bit ago. And now it's not being changed back to 3 hours. Instead of having the 2 hour window where we split, 1 week we did priesthood and 1 week we did Sunday school, now they're splitting that second hour down the middle. You have 5 minutes to get to your class, 25 minutes of Sunday school, 5 minutes to get to priesthood or Relief Society or Young Women's, 25 minutes of that. So we're going back from a bi-weekly model, or semi-bi-weekly, I don't know. And now we're going back to having them both be on the same week. A lot of people don't like this. A lot of people do like it. Personally, I kind of like it. When I was on my mission is when the change from 3 hours to 2 hours happened. I thought that was amazing. Of course I did, because I was on a mission in Washington State, and the people in Washington State did not want to go to church for 3 hours. So when I said, hey, guess what? It's not 3 hours anymore. It's 2 hours. That actually helped me a lot. And that was a welcome change, I would say. It was different for a lot of people, around town, around the church. A lot of youth, from their own personal stories or people who work with youth, had this to say, that it was a little detrimental to them. They had, I don't have a good computer. You're just gonna have to deal with me here. Youth lost out on a lot of social things that they could partake in. Visiting with the same people every week, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we had lost stuff like the scouting program. We had lost stuff like most outreach to young men, particularly, and young women. There wasn't really anything to replace a lot of the stuff that we lost within the young men's program and otherwise. So we were left with a bunch of... Oh, I just dropped that. I did not mean to do that at all. I don't know how to play this game. We were left with a lot of kids who were more or less lost in the time. My wife is calling me.
Yeah, it's home call. You want to see the dress?
Yeah. Alright, root beer float time. I have no idea what I'm doing. A lot of youth, whether they knew it or not, were becoming somewhat disillusioned with church. They were losing out on something that other generations had had. For me, I feel like I had plenty of social opportunity, and that came with stuff like having the scouting program when I was growing up, but also being able to visit with every person that I wanted to visit with when I was at church. I could see anybody that I see all my bros in priesthood. I don't know if I'm comfortable saying that everything. Oh, I'm so bad at this game. I'm so bad at this game. I'm so horrible at this game. I'm so boned. Where is he at? No good. Ah! Die. Anyways, what was I saying? I had a good upbringing, but I don't know how much of that I feel like I need to attribute to the fact that I had 3-hour church and that I had both Sunday school and both priesthood every week. Basically, my most important thing that I want to get across is that I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't think it's that important. Of course, it's like, change is always a little shocking. There's always going to be controversy around change. This one, I feel like, is the most whatever thing that's happened in recent history that I really don't think is going to be much of an issue later down the line. I thought it would be good, or at least beneficial, to go over a brief recent history of prophets getting things right. And there's two things that come to mind. You know, when it comes to the 3-hour to, oh my gosh, everybody died. When it comes to 3-hour to 2-hour church, I don't know if I could say exactly what the big change was that really was the benefit of that. But what I can say, and what I am willing to say for the two other things, that being not calling ourselves a Mormon anymore, which I knew a lot of people were really annoyed with and really bothered by, and going from just doing all of church on Sunday to the Come Follow Me program, where everything is more or less, don't look at me, everything is more or less dedicated to being at home. When it comes to not saying Mormon anymore, I try to bring this up as much as I possibly can because I think it flew under the radar for a lot of people that was one of the most prophetic things that has happened in recent history. I would say it's the most recent and major prophecy that wasn't advertised as such. The reason, when you look back, that we don't call ourselves Mormon anymore is because in the coming years after that announcement, they knew that everything that had to do with the word Mormon would be tied to it as a buzzword. It would be tied to it as controversy. You think of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. You think of that one show about Brigham Young or whatever, making him like super evil, and even the producers of the show were like, yeah, no, we just made most of that up. Mormon is no longer our word. It wasn't our word. Here's the history of it. We went by the Mormonites. Early church members went by Mormonites. That got shortened to Mormon, used as sort of a slur by a lot of people. I know this isn't the most riveting gameplay. I'm not used to playing games. I'm not used to playing games and talking at the same time, so I keep stopping. Mormon was turned into a slur. It was like repurposed as something that was celebrated, or at least, might as well exfil. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I have to defeat hostiles with a weapon. Kill one robot and get out of here. Dang, son. And then after, oh my goodness. I'm so bad at this game. Mormon's not a slur anymore. We took it back. Many such cases of similar things happening throughout history with many demographics. You know what I mean. Now we're here. We're cool being Mormon. We're cool calling ourselves Mormon. And all of a sudden there's this change where they're saying, no, we're not doing Mormon anymore. It was billed as a sort of way to get back to basics and to make sure that all of our focus and everything that we put our mind to as far as the church goes, the output of the church needed to be more Christ-centered, because we have a lot of people saying that we aren't Christian, which is whatever. I don't care about that particularly. But a lot of people saying that we not even knowing that we believe in Christ in the first place. So what we do is we adjust. And we emphasize something that has been at the center of everything this entire time, being our faith in Jesus Christ and our devotion to Christ. Right after that, Mormon, the word, gets stolen back. Not really turned back into a slur, per se, but a buzzword, something that can be used against the true Church of Jesus Christ. It's not what we're all about over here. And all of these adjustments and things that were done for the good of the church were done before that buzzword was taken back. Don't kill me, please. Oh, I didn't even call the exfil. I'm so dumb. Getting in fights over here. I'm not good at this game. The other thing that was prophetic was the changing to home-centered, home-focused teaching. That happened, if you can remember, just before COVID-19 came and, sort of wrecked everyone's party. The church knew, the prophets knew, that when it came to the next several years, well, really, just the next few years after the home-centered change, that we were going to be inside a lot. And that there were going to be some areas of the world, some parts of the church, that just would not be allowed to worship. And so bringing an entire curriculum to the world to help them to be able to learn at home was entirely prophetic. Now we fast forward, not a lot of changes. Now we're here at this new change. This change is, I don't know yet. I didn't know when we stopped saying Mormon. I didn't know when we started Come Follow Me. For most things that we, take for granted as changes in the church, we don't know the reason that it's done. If there's any solace in knowing that there just could be something, and whether or not we see the results and we see the effects and we understand exactly what it is that is beneficial for us with this change, I don't care. I don't particularly care. I trust everything that's happened so far. I trust all the changes that have happened so far. I'm not saying that you have to go blindly and accept everything that changes in the church from, all of history until now. I think it's safe to say that we're moving in the right direction. That doesn't mean there isn't any cons to everything. It's not perfect, of course. Nothing really ever is. It is so hard to talk while you're playing a video game. I could have sworn this camera was 1080p. It says 720p on it. That's not gonna look good. The pros and the cons. I have such a short list of cons that don't get immediately outweighed by pros in this whole ordeal. I'll go through the cons first. Cons are less lesson time for both Sunday school and for priesthood and Relief Society. Of course, I've never been in Relief Society, but I've heard that there is an overwhelming amount of yapping. And I'm going to be completely honest, I believe that 100%. Is it that when we're making this change, a lot of the things that people have saying is that we are sort of bowing to the lowest common denominator. Teachers who are not good enough to teach for an hour. I would know, I am a Sunday school teacher. Teachers who are not good enough to teach for a whole hour, or are we getting rid of the lowest common denominator and it's teachers who avoid teaching for 3/5 of the hour? Me and my buddy, we teach a class together for Sunday school. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we yap like pretty much the whole time. I say, personally, I believe that we are getting rid of the worst problem. I don't believe that we're catering to people who are bad at teaching an entire lesson. I really don't. I think that we're getting rid of the bigger issue, and that's a bloated lesson with a lot of fat. And that's really, I think, where the cons end, to be completely honest. I think just having less time for the lesson is really the only thing that doesn't work. It's the only thing that could be seen as a loss in this case. Sometimes. Real emphasis on that part. Sometimes. A lot of the time it's not a loss at all. I think with my lessons, it's going to go a lot smoother. I'm not going to have to yap for so long and try to fill in. And, maybe that's a shortcoming on my part for not being good enough. Still a benefit to me, I feel. And then the pros, which I feel completely outweigh the cons, are stuff like the fact, like I've already said, that the lessons are going to be more concise, that the fact that everybody's going to be able to visit with everybody every Sunday. Now, of course it's not as much visiting time as it was when there was an hour, but here's a way that I want you to look at it. You've been here, you probably are here right now, or you've been here where there's somebody that you really wanted to see at church. Most of the time on Sunday school, you get to see everybody. When you're just going to priesthood and your crush is at church and you don't get to see her, that's another reason for a youth to not really care for church that Sunday. If we're talking about impact to the youth, that's where I see it happening. There's definitely a guy around behind this wall. I heard footsteps. Uh-oh. Where was he? I did not even see him. The pros. I got killed mid-listing the pros. So let's run it back. More concise lessons, no fat. Everybody gets to visit with everybody. Whether that's, a vain reason to come to church or not, it still is better than what we had before. And I guess this isn't really a pro, But this is a con that is like a phantom con. It's not really a big deal. The idea where it's like, oh, you only have this much time for, you only have half the time that you had for priesthood or half the time that you had for Sunday school. Yeah, but you have it on double the weeks. When you add it up at the end of the month, it's the same amount. You have it's the same time. It's the same amount of time. So I'm not worried about that. Not worried about that at all. Now we get to the point where the change is coming up. We want to feel like we have to have an opinion on it, but the main thing that I want to get across is that it just does not matter that much. It's not that big a deal. Let's quit worrying about it. I'm going to 0 to hero on this one. If you have a different opinion, let me know. If you feel like that I didn't consider anything, let me know. If you feel like there's more nuance than I'm giving it, or less nuance than I'm giving it, let me know. If you're a fan of people playing video games and talking on YouTube, and also you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or if you're just either or, consider sticking around. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I'm not sure. I don't think I want to be a YouTuber. If you have any suggestions for things in the church that I should talk about, if you have any suggestions for games I should play while I'm doing so, let me know. I don't really have a hands-free job, so there's really no way for me to take notes about what I wanted to say for the video. So it was probably very imprecise. Of course, I'm going to get better as time goes on, talking and playing video games at the same time. Of course, I probably should already be pretty good at that, because that's the whole point of what I'm doing with this whole thing, but I'm not. So I need a gun. I need a gun for heaven's sake. I need to shoot people with a gun. I have to stab a robot to death and take his gun. Where am I? Oh! Uh-oh. I gotta get out of here. Making for some boring content right now. Totally neglected my root beer float this whole time. I'm not gonna lie, this tastes like eggnog. Well, that's been my take. It was probably very imprecise. I'm not the most experienced person when it comes to recording stuff, putting it out there. Of course, I'm gonna get better every time. I have more interesting stuff where I'm not just yapping the whole time just in store. Just wait for that. If you have any things that you'd be interested in me going over, or anything that you'd like to add to the conversation, just let me know. I'm probably never ever going to ask you to like or subscribe or anything. I'm not there yet. But if you want to, feel free. Alright, I will tell you to subscribe. If you just subscribe, you're going to see some cool stuff. Okay? It's not just going to be me yapping the whole time. I have videos that are already on the way. They're a little more precise. So just keep an eye out. You should subscribe. You should subscribe.